Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello students, I am very happy to be with all of you today. Today we are concluding the course and this is lecture number 40, course wrap up. So, like we had introduced you to the course in lecture number 1, course introduction. Here there is a slight change and therefore I am showing you this course snapshot once again, because we had to cover the concepts of the basics, that is, in other words, communication and introduction, communication skills at the workplace, verbal communication 2 lectures, non-verbal communication 2 lectures, intercultural communication 2 lectures, body language 2 lectures, listening skill 2 lectures, that is 7 2s are 14 lectures in all. 14 lectures of the course, out of 40 lectures, 14 were geared towards building your basics to employment communication, a lab based course. After that we had the first of the practice session or the lab sessions. So anyway, let us get back to business. So because we had to cover these 7 topics and we covered them in around 14 lectures or maybe 13 lectures. You can look at it and examine it in detail. Therefore, we took some time before we came to the course proper. That is the first thing I would like to tell you. So, we had a total of 40 lectures or labs, approximately half an hour each, and these 40 lectures were broken up into 8 modules, and each module had of course 5 lecture or lab each, 5 units, that is 2.5 hours of recorded material and 5 tests to cover these 8 modules. That is, after every 5 units of approx half an hour each, whether it is lab or lecture, you will have a test. And then further I would like to tell you that initially, as I planned it, as I proposed this course, we had thought of 15 lab sessions and 25 lectures, but during the course of the recording and as we moved along developing the course, we felt the need to have more practice session or more lab sessions, not only because the subtitle of the course is a lab based course, but also because practice makes perfect. Of course, you very well appreciate that since this is a lab based course, the more and more you practice, the better you are in the 4 communication skills of listening, speaking, reading and writing. So that is the slight change which I have put in blue font here, highlighted. We have actually 16 practice sessions or lab classes, and therefore we had to reduce on the number of lectures to 24 to make it 40 on the whole in total. So we move to 8 assignments and end term test, which will conclude this course. So at the outset, in fact, I hope that you are enjoying the YouTube videos I am putting forward for your viewing, and now is the time when we connect it, at least verbally, vocally, directly this time, to the course. So let us watch A Room with a View.
Good morning, madam. Can I help you?
Are you the manager?
I am the owner, madam.
What?
I am the owner.
I want to speak to the manager.
I am the manager too.
What?
I am the manager as well.
Manager, geen manager.
You're what?
I'm the manager.
What?
I'm the manager.
Yes, I know. You've just told me. What's the matter with you? Now listen to me. I booked a room with a bath. When I book a room with a bath, I expect to get a bath.
You've got a bath.
I'm not paying £7.20 per night plus VAT for a room without a bath.
Where is your bath?
You call that a bath? It's not big enough to drown a mouse. It's disgraceful.
I wish you were a mouse on a tree.
And another thing. I asked for a room with a view.
Deaf, mad, and blind. This is the view as far as I can remember, madam. Yes, this is it.
When I pay for a view, I expect something more interesting than that.
That is Torquay, madam.
But it's not good enough.
Well, may I ask what you were expecting to see out of a Torquay hotel bedroom window? Sydney Opera House, perhaps? The hanging gardens of Babylon? Herds of wildebeest sweeping majestically?
I expect to be able to see the sea.
You can see the sea. It's over there between the land and the sky.
I need a telescope to see that.
Well, may I suggest that you consider moving to a hotel closer to the sea? Or preferably in it.
Now, listen to me. I'm not satisfied, but I've decided to stay here. However, I shall expect a reduction.
Why? Because Krakatoa's not erupting at the moment, or...?
Because the room is cold, the bath is too small, the view is invisible, and the radio doesn't work.
No, the radio works. You don't.
What?
See if I can fix it, you scabby old bat. I think we got something then.
What?
I think we got something then.
What are you doing?
Madam, don't think me rude, but may I ask, do you by any chance have a hearing aid?
A what?
A hearing aid!
Yes, I do have a hearing aid.
Would you like me to get it mended?
Mended? It's working perfectly all right.
No, it isn't.
I haven't got it turned on at the moment.
Why not?
The battery runs down. Now, what sort of a reduction are you going to give me on this room?
60% if you turn it on.
What?
My wife handles all such matters. I'm sure she will be delighted to discuss it with you.
I shall speak to her after lunch.
You heard that all right, didn't you?
What?
Thank you so much. Lunch will be served at 12:30.
Okay. So, having seen that video, now we move on to the course as such. So, what you observed in this short video is a scene where you see communication at the workplace or employment communication. You saw an old lady has checked in the hotel room, and the waiter boy has brought the hotel manager to the room because the customer has lots of complaints about the view, about the radio, and maybe some more. And you saw, in other words, how the manager dealt with the customer who was irate and quite furious. Given her age and given her hearing disability, it's bound to be that she will be little bit upset the way it is shown in this video. But what I would like you to study and observe is the way in which the manager tackled her problems. At the outset, the manager was slightly assertive because of course he is the manager of this hotel and he knows it best. So, he countered each of her complaints with evidence, or actually pointing out the fact that as far as possible they had been trying their best and their hotel had the best to offer given the constraints of financial requirement or whatever the lady might have encashed, whatever bill she might have paid, whatever cash she might have paid for accessing or, for example, renting out this room in the hotel for her accommodation or accommodation needs. On the other hand, you observe the communication repertoire or the communication exhibited by the waiter, you know, small time person, but at the fag end of the day, he is somebody who has to bear the brunt of both the old lady who is cranky and disturbed and unsatisfied with the kind of services provided by the hotel, and this particular room where she says that she has paid quite a large sum of money as per her observation or as per her opinion. And on the other hand, he is also being fired by the manager for some of the statements or the actions he makes. So, what I finally want to communicate to you is, in other words, that you must at the workplace or during the course of employment, you must be able to pitch in the best foot forward. You must work upon your communication skills, and especially the aspects of verbal communication, non-verbal communication, intercultural communication, listening skills. These four, I would be saying, I am quite emphatic, and I repeat it to you that these four skills you must work upon to improve, and look at these lectures again and again. I do not want you to go with the impression that these 4 topics or these 8 group of lectures, introduction, conclusion, for all these 4 topics are irrelevant or not part and parcel of this course. I would emphasize that these 4 topics are very much required. They were very much imperative to building a strong foundation for this course. Given the limitations of how this course will be offered to you through the video mode, through the 4-quadrant approach, PowerPoint, supporting lectures, quiz, so on and so forth, you understand that we are not having that face-to-face communication which we have in a normal classroom. Whatever it is, I just want you to work upon these 4 topics. So, let us move ahead. And what were the concepts we covered during this course? I just wanted to show you the proposed version and the as on date version, that is when 40 lectures are completed in recorded mode. In the first module, we had course introduction and verbal communication were covered. In the second module, we covered non-verbal communication and cultural communication, intercultural communication or cross-cultural communication. In module 3, we covered body language and listening skills. In module 4, I had intended to introduce you to CV writing and how to write impressive CVs. To move further, in module 5, I was interested to let you know how to write impressive CVs at later stages of your career, that is CV writing stage 2. My intention was that how will you write CVs at, say, after having 20-15 years of experience, when you are in a position to even change companies, go to higher levels of the organizational hierarchy. In module 6, the title is how to write the cover letter and introduction to group discussions, but I thought it was quite late. If you come to module 6, that is lecture number 25 to 30, at that point of time, if we come to the course proper, I thought this may not be good. And then we move on to module 7, where the aim of the course was to introduce you to personal interviews and to tackle difficult questions in personal interviews. And then we move on to module 8, which was about success in personal interviews and the course wrap up. Now, there is a slight change, but before we move to that, let us watch this video on communications breakdown and relate it to why the shift in the course structure and the change in the modules. Please enjoy.
You can release men for guard duty by putting the prisoners to work in the mess hall.
They wouldn't like that.
Who cares what they like?
It's not that simple, General. I'm sure that Colonel Hogan will have something to say about that rocket launcher.
I've got a lot to say.
Clink, tell this man to leave.
Dismissed, Hogan.
General Burkhalter, according to the Geneva Convention, you cannot bring offensive weapons into a POW camp.
Clink, tell Colonel Hogan I'm not listening.
Hogan, General Burkhalter says he does not wish to discuss it with you.
Tell General Burkhalter I'm reporting him to the Red Cross.
General Burkhalter, Hogan says that he's reporting you to the Red Cross.
I'm not discussing this with Colonel Hogan. Why are you?
I don't.
Stop talking to him.
Schultz, tell Colonel Hogan that I do not wish to discuss it with him.
Colonel Hogan, Colonel Klink does not wish to discuss it with you.
Tell Colonel Klink he's going to be in as much trouble as General Burkhalter.
Clink, tell Schultz to tell Hogan I'm in no trouble.
Schultz, tell Colonel Hogan that General Burkhalter is in no trouble.
Colonel Hogan, Colonel Klink says
They're both going to be in trouble if they don't get rid of that rocket launcher.
Clink, tell him he can't threaten me.
Schultz, tell him he can't threaten him.
And work out the don't kill.
This is my last warning.
I don't take warnings from prisoners.
Neither do I.
You will this time. If
Hogan, I have told you.
Wait for me.
So, having seen this video, now we are in a position to discuss it. Now, what happened in this video is that what is reflected in the title for this video, communication breakdown. So, communication breakdown happens due to communication barriers, and in the lecture which is titled Communication Skills at the Workplace, and before that lecture number 2, Communication and Introduction, we spoke about noise, the technical or the theoretical term which deals with communication breakdown. So, we said that there are 3 types of noise: physical, psychological and physiological. Now, here in this short video we saw the psychological noise at work. Now, when we use the common phrase there was a communication breakdown between them, or at the workplace there was tension because communication breakdown, or communication breakdown should be avoided, what we mean is of course all these 3 types of communication breakdown or communication barriers, or noise as technically theoretically termed, in the sense of physical noise, psychological noise and physiological noise. But the most important noise in us is that between the space, the mental space between the 2 temples, and that is called the psychological noise. You see, in this video we saw that there was this communication breakdown due to the barrier of the ego, and in some ways I would term it as edge God out. I would say this because normally at the workplace I think we can work better, we can be good communicators, we can be finally good, simple human beings if we remember to see God in the other. You know, some of you might laugh, some of you might just laugh it off, philosophy and funda, but the point is just employ this strategy I am telling you. When you approach the other at the workplace, think you see God in him or her, and work with this at the back of your mind. I tell you, if you try this, let's say 5 times in a working day of say 9 to 5, you will find that this kind of communication failure or communication disruption, I call it communication disaster, will never happen. So, my abbreviated or my full form for the abbreviation ego is edge God out. When we edge God out of our lives, we are bound to make communication mistakes. We are bound to be failures at the workplace as far as communication skills are concerned, and we are bound to be therefore targeted or marked or labeled as those who are poor in communication. Since the course is titled Communication Skills and the course is based on communication skills, the course is titled Employment Communication, a lab based course, but we are working on the 4 skills, the 4 communication skills of listening, speaking, reading, writing. Therefore, I thought it was necessary to show you this video and have a short discussion on it. You may have your own takeaways from this video as such, and I welcome if during the course of the interaction session or the discussion forum we can discuss on what I have said just now. I have said just now that we need to work upon our communication skills, listening, speaking, reading, writing, so that we don't have communication breakdown at the workplace. We are better workers, the organization will in fact look up to us, the organization will value you, you will be bound to be in the good books of your boss, you are bound to be in fact in for a quick promotion, so on and so forth. These are some of the benefits, and of course at the workplace they matter too much. Never under evaluate this, never undervalue this. So, in view of what I have said, therefore, when we were working through the course and recording the lectures and going through the lab sessions, there were 16 lab sessions which were recorded, I thought that there should be a slight change in the course module or in the modular structure of the course as such, and therefore, I present to you the final version of the course. In this slide, we have the final version of the course modules and the concepts which I covered. I think the only change in modules 1 to 4 is this one. Instead of cross-cultural communication, I termed it intercultural communication, which sounded better to me. And module 4 is roughly the same, the employment process and CV writing. Instead of going to CV writing phase 1 and phase 2, phase 1 I meant that those who are beginners, freshers, those who are just out of college, those who are preparing and going through the finishing school, I thought it was better to introduce all of you to the idea of the employment process, and therefore 2 lectures on the employment process, introduction to employment process, and the second lecture was titled, the second lecture was introduction to CV writing, and therefore module 4 is titled the employment process and CV writing. Moving further to the last 4 modules of this course as we have it now in presentable form to you. Module 5 covered the cover letter, CV writing lab and group discussions, GDs in short. Module 6 group discussion continued, lab and introduction to interviewing. Module 7 personal interviews and personal interview practice lab sessions, and module 8 again personal interviews, student speak and course wrap up. Let me develop a little bit on why we have this as the last 4 modules in the course. Of course, what you observe is when I will show you in detail why we had this kind of modular structure with this kind of overlapping. If you observe module 5, you have cover letter as well as CV writing lab as well as group discussion. Now, why we want a healthy mix? We wanted a healthy mix between theory as well as lab session. Now, if there is a course which is lab based, does not mean that the theories are unimportant. The theory lectures or whatever we are covering before we come to the lab sessions are equally important as the lab sessions in themselves. I wanted there to be a healthy mix between the theoretical lectures which I delivered and the lab classes as performed by the MHRM first year students of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at the IIT Kanpur. And therefore, we had to do some sort of juggling. We did some minor changes between the modular structure of the courses, especially if you see it and if as I see it in modules 5, 6, 7 and 8. So, in short, let me just tell you what we have done in this course while wrapping up lecture 1, Introduction to Employment Communication, a lab based course. In this short video lecture, I introduced you to the course, and now in this 40th lecture course wrap up, I am just repeating what we have introduced to you, and during the course of the lecture the introduction of changes that needs to be told you in detail this time once again. Lecture 2 was Introduction to Communication and Communication Process as such. Lecture 3 was Communication Skills at the Workplace, where I talked about the importance of communication skills, listening, speaking, reading, writing at the workplace. To relate it to the title of this course, Employment Communication. It is not employee communication. Employee communication is that communication which you come to when you are under the employer, when you are actually in the employee. Suppose you get a job, then what kind of communication you do is called employee communication. You write projects, you write reports, you write official emails, you write formal messages, and there are a plethora of writing, speaking, listening activities which you do at the workplace. Of course, you have to read as well. So, listening, speaking, reading, writing, all the 4 skills also are part of employee communication. Maybe someday we can have a course on that as well. Lecture 4 and 5, I introduced you to the idea of verbal communication and concluded on the same topic. This is module 1, 5 lectures, 2.5 hours and 1 unit, 1 module, followed by a quiz or a test. Module 2 was lecture 6 and 7. These two were the first two lectures of module 2 in non-verbal communication. I introduced you and I concluded the topic. Lecture 8 and 9, I had two lectures on intercultural communication. The same way I introduced you and concluded the topic on intercultural communication. Lab 10 was the first of the lab classes. It was based on the theoretical lectures on course introduction and verbal communication. It was performed by students of the MHRM at the Humanities and Social Sciences department at the IIT Kanpur. Module 3, to move further, there were two lectures, number 11 and 12, introducing you to the in detail about the idea of body language, introduction and conclusion. This was required because communication is more of non-verbal than of the verbal aspect. If you remember the percentage, you can remember that 93% of your communication comes to the other, comes to the decoder, comes to the communicative from the communicator, comes to the listener or the reader through non-verbal means. So, in non-verbal communication, where we have 7 types, the most important is body language, and therefore, 2 lectures on body language. Lecture 13-14, we came to another important skill, which is called listening skills. I have repeated, and again I will tell you, listening is the mother of speaking. Listening among the 4 skills is the most important in my opinion. Then we came to lab 15, where we had lab sessions or classroom activities in the lab on non-verbal communication and cross-cultural communication. Module 4, we began with a lab class on body language, practice session 1, and since body language and listening skills were part of the same module, lab 18, after a small gap of lecture 17, was on listening skills. In between, we have lecture 17, which was again a new turn to the course. Now we are in the heart of the course. Now we are in the beginning of the course, I would say, and that was introduction to the employment process. We moved to lecture 19 and 20, where we worked on CV writing. We introduced you to the idea of CV writing, and also we introduced the idea of cover letter, how to write the cover letter, because the CV does not go individually or independent as such. It has to be accompanied by the cover letter, and therefore, the art and the science of the cover letter was talked about. Module 5 was again idea of the cover letter in lecture 21. Lecture 22 and 23 were lab sessions, half an hour each on CV writing, and lecture 24 and 25 were devoted to group discussions. The first is lecture 24, fundamentals of group discussions, and the second was lecture 25, strategies for success in group discussions. Now, we had 4 lab sessions on the group discussion, and there were 15 students in the MHRM course at the HSS department in IIT Kharagpur, and we had 4 lab sessions, lab 26, 27, 28, 29, concluded by the last lecture of module 6, interviewing for employment. And module 7, we again had beginning with a lecture number 31, preparing for the personal interview, and then we had 4 lab sessions, that is lab 32, 33, 34 and 35, performed by students of the MHRM at the Humanities department in IIT Kharagpur. Let us go back 1 minute to module 6, because I have forgotten to tell you something about this important component. When we talk about the GDs, we had performances or practice sessions on 3 kinds of GD. The first is the traditional kind of GD or group discussion on a topic which was defined and given to the students, preparation for 2 minutes and then discussion for 10 minutes, rounding up 2 minutes. Then we had 2 group discussions of the case study type, and then we had 2 group discussions on the fishbowl type of group discussion, which is the in thing nowadays, which recruiters are using because it tests the interpersonal communication skills and the discussion skills of the candidates or the group discussions. Rather, I would say the last type of GD, apart from the traditional GD and the case study kind of GD, the fishbowl kind of GD, the third one, is the most important because it helps the candidates to develop their interpersonal skills and group discussion skills. So, we had tested the students on 5 variables and we provided them feedback. In some of the group discussions, the students provided feedback on each other, but in 2 group discussions I provided the feedback on parameters of, first of all, leadership, number 2, knowledge of the subject matter, number 3, analytical ability, number 4, clarity of thought, and number 5, conviction and flexibility. You see, these are the 5 points which are presented in introduction to group discussion, that particular lecture. And then let me tell you that we came next to the interviews and the practice sessions on the interviews in module 7. We had 4 lab classes on the personal interview, lab number 32, 33, 34 and 35, and what we did is we arranged the MHRM students into interview panels of 3 members each, and the panel of 3 members each interviewed 2 candidates one by one. So, in the first panel we had Varsha, Rajarshi and Tirtho, and they interviewed Ritika and Purva, and this was the general HR kind of interview. In the second panel we had Ritika, Ankur and Purva, and they interviewed Akshay and Rajarshi one by one. This was for the post of CFO, Chief Fund Officer, which is a new type of employee engagement which is the in thing nowadays in HR. The third panel consisted of Alolika, Aritro and Pooja, and they interviewed Paulami and secondly Ali. And the last panel consisted of Kustav, Tanvi and Ali, and they interviewed 3 candidates one by one. The first one to be interviewed was Aritro, the second Anupam, and the third and last was Tirtho. So, we had a very good time, we had a very good session, we had in fact very productive sessions I would say, and therefore, I believe that you will be able to view these lectures of the lab sessions again and again and take your feedback and learn more, and also provide me feedback on how we could work further on the lab on personal interview. Then we come to the last module, module number 8, and we had 2 lectures here, 36 and 37. Again it dealt with personal interviews. I thought of removing the adjective difficult in the title of lecture 36, which is tackling questions during personal interviews. Now, if I title the lecture as tackling difficult questions during personal interviews, it would strike a fear factor in your minds, and I thought to be more general, because some of you who are taking this course, employment communication, a lab based course, might be freshers, some might be beginners, and if we have such difficult terms in the title, it might not be good. So, on the whole, generally I have taken a holistic view. I have tried to be covering all the kinds of questions which would come during personal interviews, whether it is for fresher or a beginner at the workplace, or whether it is for somebody who has already got 10-15 years of work ex. Then we have 2 more labs, and that is the last few labs, lab 38, life skills lab, where the students will be practicing on how to practice the life skills at the workplace, 2 or 3 activities as time permits, and lab 39 is student speak lab, where the students of the MHRM program will give feedback on the course, because they have been the performers, they have been the guinea pig during the course of the lectures and the lab, especially during the lab sessions, and I believe they have a right to give a feedback on this course which should reach you, included with some of their comments or their statements or their opinions or ideas on how we could make this course better in future. And this is lecture number 40. This is the course wrap up, and I think we are in time to conclude. At the end, a short video once again. That is the last video in this course on employment communication, and I am sure that you must have liked it, but let us look at it deeper. It is titled Funny Express Communication Video, and of course, it is set in the other part of the world where Christmas is much celebrated. Whatever be the location, whatever be the cultural background where this video might have been shot, I think we have some takeaways from this video. The first is, look at the array of emotions which were displayed by the animated animals in this short video. It started from greed to hunger to astonishment to fear to surprise to fun to laughter to sadness. So, let us think about this array of emotions which we have picked up from this video as the background for this course. Remember, the one who works at the employment workplace is a bundle of emotions. Remember that human beings have the hard skills, at the workplace as workers, we have the hard skills, we have our technical and educational qualifications of Btech plus 10 years of experience or PhD plus 2 years of experience or whatever it may be. I am just citing some examples. The point is that apart from the hard skills, it is the soft skills, and emotions relate to the soft skills, how we manage them, how we control them, how we develop them, how we work upon them, how we include it in our communication repertoire at the workplace. I want this to be the final point you take away from this lecture. So, I would like you to especially note the lab 38 and 39, because that would be a kind of glimpse, I would say. It would give you a glimpse or an insight into what and how you should be tackling affairs or workplace interactions. Especially I would like your feedback just the same way as in lab 39. The MHRM students at the HSS department in IIT Kharagpur provide feedback on the course as such. For the references, during the duration of this recording of 40 lectures and consisting of 24 lectures and 16 lab sessions, I have drawn a wide variety of relevant articles, research papers and books for the preparation of the PowerPoint lectures, PowerPoint slides. I have drawn to a great extent on Google searches, and of course, I have shown you many videos from youtube.com. I would like you to be welcomed once again to the course and hope that you benefit from this course on employment communication. Especially as leave taking draws near, I would wish you all the best and may God bless you always. Thank you and God bless you.